The first thing Rowan Mercer noticed was the laughter. It wasn't cruel laughter. It wasn't even directed at him. It was the kind of laughter that drifted through the old roadside motel on a bright spring afternoon, carried by travelers checking in and children running across the parking lot. Yet somehow, standing behind the worn reception desk while balancing paperwork and worrying about overdue bills, Rowan felt completely alone. 3 years earlier, he had lost his wife in a sudden accident. Since then, every day had been a battle. He was raising his 7-year-old daughter, Maisie, by himself while trying to keep the struggling motel he inherited from his grandfather from collapsing under debt. The motel sat beside a quiet highway outside a small town. Most travelers passed without stopping. The roof needed repairs. Several rooms sat empty for weeks at a time. Every month Rowan wondered whether he would be forced to sell the place and start over somewhere else. But despite everything, he refused to give up. Before we continue, if you believe kindness deserves a second chance and that ordinary people can create extraordinary moments, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Love and Destiny for more heart-touching stories. That afternoon seemed no different from any other. The sun shone brightly over the parking lot. Maisie sat near the front desk coloring pictures while Rowan updated reservation records. Business was slow. Only 4 rooms were occupied. Then a black luxury sedan rolled into the parking lot. Rowan barely looked up. Expensive cars occasionally passed through. Wealthy travelers rarely stayed at his motel. They usually continued toward the city where elegant hotels waited. The driver stepped out first. Then another vehicle arrived. And another. Within minutes, 4 dark vehicles occupied the front parking area. Several guests stepped outside to watch. Rowan frowned. Something unusual was happening. The first man who entered wore a tailored suit that probably cost more than Rowan earned in several months. Yet his expression carried warmth rather than arrogance. He glanced around the modest lobby, noticing the old photographs on the walls and the hand-painted welcome sign created by Maisie. Then he smiled. A genuine smile. The man approached the desk and asked whether any rooms were available. Rowan assumed it was some kind of mistake. Before he could answer, another suited individual entered behind him, followed by several others who appeared to be assistants or security personnel. The entire scene felt unreal. Then the first man leaned slightly against the counter and grinned. He asked if Rowan happened to have a room available for one more guest. The people behind him laughed softly. Rowan laughed too. It felt like a joke. A group of executives choosing his tiny roadside motel over the luxury hotels 20 miles away seemed impossible. But nobody was joking. The smiling stranger introduced himself as Callum Hartwell. The name meant nothing to Rowan at first. Then one of the assistants handed over an identification card. Rowan's stomach nearly stopped. Callum Hartwell was the CEO of one of the largest transportation and logistics companies in the country. His company appeared regularly on national news. His business empire employed thousands. And somehow he was standing inside Rowan's aging motel asking for a room. The situation became even stranger. Callum explained that severe weather earlier that day had disrupted several travel routes. Their scheduled accommodations had fallen through. While searching for alternatives, one of his staff members discovered Rowan's motel nearby. Still, something didn't add up. A man with access to private jets and luxury resorts could easily find somewhere else to stay. Yet Callum seemed unusually interested in the motel itself. Throughout check-in, his attention repeatedly drifted toward the old family photographs decorating the walls. One picture showed Rowan's grandfather standing proudly beside the motel shortly after opening it decades earlier. Another showed Rowan as a child helping paint room doors. Callum studied each photograph carefully. That evening, after checking into their rooms, the executive group remained surprisingly relaxed. Instead of demanding special treatment, they ate dinner at the small diner next door and chatted with local residents. Maisie became fascinated by the visitors. She spent half an hour explaining her drawings to Callum, who listened as if every word mattered. For the first time in months, Rowan saw his daughter laughing without reservation. It stirred something inside him. Hope. The next morning, Rowan awoke before sunrise to handle maintenance work. He expected the executives to leave early. Instead, he found Callum sitting alone outside near the garden. The CEO looked nothing like the powerful businessman featured in magazines. He appeared thoughtful. Almost tired. They spoke for nearly an hour. Not about business. Not about money. About life. About loss. About responsibility. About family. Rowan shared pieces of his journey as a widowed father struggling to preserve his family's legacy. Callum listened quietly. Then he revealed something unexpected. Years earlier, his own father had stayed at this very motel during difficult times. The experience had left a lasting impression. The kindness shown by the Mercer family had become a story often repeated in his household. Callum had recognized the motel name immediately when his staff suggested it. That was why he insisted they stop. Not because it was convenient. Because he wanted to see whether the same spirit still existed. As the day passed, word spread throughout town that the famous CEO was staying at the motel. Curious locals stopped by. Business increased. Vacant rooms suddenly filled. The small diner next door experienced its busiest day in years. But the biggest surprise came later. Before departing, Callum asked for one final tour of the property. Rowan walked him around the grounds, embarrassed by peeling paint and aging facilities. He apologized repeatedly for the condition of the motel. Callum stopped him. The CEO looked around carefully. He saw cracked sidewalks. Faded signs. Old buildings. But he also saw something else. He saw a father working tirelessly to create a future for his daughter. He saw a family legacy refusing to disappear. He saw kindness surviving despite hardship. Several weeks later, Rowan received an email. Then another. Then a phone call. Callum's company had decided to launch a community revitalization initiative focused on preserving small family-owned businesses. The motel would become the first project. Renovations began within months. Local contractors received work. The town benefited. New travelers arrived. Business flourished. Most importantly, Rowan no longer faced the possibility of losing everything. A year later, standing outside the beautifully restored motel under clear afternoon skies, Rowan watched guests fill nearly every room. Maisie ran across the lawn laughing with friends. The parking lot bustled with activity. The future finally looked bright. And all because of a moment that had seemed like a joke. A smiling stranger asking whether there was room for one more guest. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to like the video, share it with friends and family, and subscribe to Love and Destiny. Your support helps keep stories of hope and kindness alive. Special request: comment below with the word kindness if you believe one small act of compassion can change someone's entire future. As evening sunlight stretched gently across the motel grounds, Rowan realized something profound. Sometimes help doesn't arrive with dramatic announcements. Sometimes it arrives quietly, disguised as an ordinary visitor, carrying opportunities we never expected. And sometimes the people who change our lives forever are simply looking for a room, a conversation, and a reason to believe in goodness again. On that unforgettable day, a struggling single father discovered that kindness travels farther than any highway. And somewhere beyond success, wealth, and power, one smiling CEO remembered a simple lesson: never forget the people who helped build hope when hope was hardest to find. Because destiny has a remarkable way of returning kindness to the hearts that never stopped giving it.